The previous basket is under review.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Basket Under Review podcast. I am your host, Eamon Brennan, as ever, here with our buddy Tate Frazier from The Ringer. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We are going to talk about Monday night's basketball games. We're going to talk about Darryn Peterson in Kansas. After a very dramatic weekend in a home win over BYU, playing again at Texas Tech tonight. And after all the drama of the weekend, Darryn Peterson had like a normal college basketball game and played normal minutes and played like a normal college basketball player, and then hit two massive threes to beat Texas Tech on the road. We're going to talk about Kansas. We're going to talk about all the great stuff from this past weekend. We are going to rank freshmen as well, based on how good they've been in college basketball, which is a kind of a weird thing, but all of the talk about Peterson and Keaton Wagler and Cameron Boozer just quietly chugging along, being the best basketball player in the country by like a fair margin. It's a ripe discussion. So we're going to talk about all of that and much more. Before we get to all of it, I want to encourage you to go to basketunderreview.com as ever. $10 a month, sign up, support this show, support all the free stuff that we put out on podcasts and YouTube feeds. Get access to every single piece of written content on the site, which is fantastic and will make you a smarter college basketball fan. Also get access to Trilly Donovan's Discord, where he breaks news. There's a huge community there. It's a lot of fun to goof around with those guys. Pretty much 24/7, everybody's talking about college basketball all the time. It's where I go to check on various fan bases that may be angry. Usually when they're angry, sometimes when they're happy, but mostly when they're angry. And it's just a great value all around, and we'd really appreciate your support. So check out basketunderreview.com. Please sign up, and thanks to everyone for supporting us and supporting this show. That thank you also is extended to Homefield, the presenting sponsor of the show, homefieldapparel.com. Best place in the world to get any sort of college athletics gear, retro logos, all that fun stuff. As we have noted on this show every single week, and will continue to do, Homefield is doing their Homefield house tour, where they just tour the country and do a little pop-up type pregame experiences at various big games. They were most recently at Purdue at Indiana last week in Bloomington. Big win for the Hoosiers. Didn't really see that one coming. Thought Purdue was going to run them after the Illinois-Purdue experience at Mackey a few days beforehand, but Indiana won that game. They were at the home Indiana women's game after that. And this coming weekend, February 6th, they'll be in New York outside the Garden for UConn at St. John's. So stop by Homefield's tent. Tell them we sent you. Tell them we said hi. And thanks as ever to Homefield for sponsoring our show. All right, Tate, we're here. We did it. We had kind of a dramatic weekend of college basketball. How are you? And semi-dramatic Monday night. How are you feeling about everything?
I'm feeling great. It was a great weekend. Like you said, a lot of storylines, a lot of star players, a lot of star-studded moments, and a lot of controversy, which we'll get into all the controversy. And we're not talking about Groundhog's Day because that was controversial as always. Whenever he sees the shadow, 8 more weeks of winter. So I feel for everybody on the East Coast and especially in the Northeast. I know you're dealing with it right now. Snowstorms, ice storms, everything else. So Puxatawny Phil did not help out by seeing his shadow. But apparently he sees it 80% of the time even. And if you shot 80% from the free throw line, that'd be a pretty good percentage. So I would say, I'm not really buying into the groundhog too much these days.
No, I don't know what his actual percentage is like or how they even grade that. Like what counts as winter? What time frame are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like what percentage accuracy does he have?
We need Kim Pom on it, right? I mean, Torvik, Kim Pom, one of these guys.
I would love to see some numbers.
Someone needs to get on it.
I would love to see some. I would love to see some data on the groundhog, honestly, because I think, and maybe this is just because of the last week and change of hitting ice out of my driveway with an axe. I would like him to be wrong. And so, frankly, I'm hoping he's very wrong. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we had, like you said, an exciting and interesting and fascinating previous weekend and like I said, Monday night of college basketball. And we kind of have to start with Darryn Peterson because We just finished the Kansas-Texas Tech game. We're recording right after that, late Monday night. And I was expecting this to be another chapter in the dramatic Darryn Peterson story. And it ended up being Darryn Peterson plays 35 minutes, doesn't play super well, looks like a totally normal college basketball player, plays the minutes of a normal college basketball player. All of the weekend, is he cramping? Is he sitting out? Is he load managing? All of that drama was not present at all in Lubbock. And then he comes down and, hits 2 threes at the very end of the game. 2 incredible shots, frankly, that are just Fran was talking about it, I think, on the broadcast of just this is these are pro shots. This is just this guy is way better than everybody else on the floor. But didn't look like that for most of the night. And Texas Tech did a great job defending him. But it was just such a fascinating juxtaposition between what happened Saturday against BYU and the game on Monday night, which is, the 2 polar opposites, I guess, of the Peterson story this year. And it's just been such a weird kind of quasi psychodrama that everyone seems to be getting their arms around, at least based on Saturday. And then Monday night was just normal game, played well when it mattered, didn't play well the rest of the game, looked like a normal guy. It's just kind of a fascinating deal right now.
Absolutely. And we had people, going back through the tapes on Saturday, figuring out when his agent left his seat there.
Yeah.
And
there's been a lot of that.
Fieldhouse.
A lot of Zapruder film.
A lot of analyzing. Yeah, a lot of people are trying to figure out who's talking to who on the bench. Why is no one actually going to check on Darryn Peterson and giving him hydration? These are the conversations that were happening on Saturday. And you also had the push of the brands, which if you really try to go back and dissect what's happening here with the sort of number 1 versus number 2 debate, right? It's Nike versus Adidas. Adidas at halftime of this game, after the 18-point first half, which was an incredible first half, pretty much a perfect first half against BYU for Darryn Peterson, and the perfect example of why everybody kind of views him right now as the number 1 pick. If you look at any of these big boards, and again, we're a college basketball show. We like to keep it college basketball centric, but when you have number 1 versus number 2, that's obviously going to be a conversation. It's the first time we've had that matchup in college basketball since Chet Holmgren versus Paolo Banchero, and that was, back in a November game. So this is a conference game. 2 high-profile guys going at it, and Darryn Peterson was by far the better player in the head-to-head matchup. And then came the controversy of what was happening in the second half. He checks himself out again. We've seen this before. I had a lot of Kansas fans, reaching out you new here. Have you not witnessed this sort of a saga that we've had all season long? He's missed 65% of the games that he's supposed to be playing. We don't ever know when he's going to play. You've seen and heard the frustration from Bill Self. Bill Self, after the game, was doing the classic he's doing his best to talk around it without giving any sort of real details on what's happening. I didn't realize that Darren Matsubara, who is a former Adidas Nation guy, was his agent, which is another conversation because Mats is, Adidas through and through. So that goes back to the brands being at play here. And maybe they have a say in what he was doing. But Adidas was putting out end of debate, right, at halftime of this game, talking about the number 1 pick because of how great Darryn Peterson played. But again, we didn't see him in the second half. And luckily for Kansas, Melvin Council once again puts on his Superman cape and was able to find a way to help them win down the stretch there. So shout out to Melvin Council for kind of being the 1B of this team. But the 1A is electric and amazing. And as we saw in this game against Texas Tech on the road, Darryn Peterson, Atwell did a great job on Darryn Peterson for the majority of this game until he didn't, right? I mean, 10 points in the first half, 3 of 10, not really getting into flow, kind of forcing things a little bit. Sort of seemed like he was a little bit shell-shocked there in that environment, a great environment there in Lubbock, Texas, as you and I both know. And then at the end of the game, it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. He is the number 1 pick. He is this extremely incredible talent. And the little hesitation on the first 3 that he hit in the corner on a nice little kick out, but just enough to give himself room to get it over JT Toppin. And then the closing 3 to give them the lead at the top of the key, leaning to his left a little bit. I mean, those are just 2 elite, like you said, NBA level shots. And to have the Saturday experience, which turned into a conspiracy theorist fest lead into Monday night, which was a kind of regular college basketball game that ended in heroics. It is nice that we're having the conversation now back again about college basketball. And I'm very happy to be sitting here talking about that as opposed to diving into all the conspiracies that surrounded Saturday, because it was a lot to digest, Eamon. And I know you and I both were trying to do our best to sift through it all.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever the reasons are and whatever you decide to take at face value, right? Like cramping, injury concerns, take it fully like in your most, naive sense, just straight up face value. It's just frustrating as a college basketball fan who really wants to watch this guy play as much college basketball as possible. He's going to go to the NBA. I'll watch him in the NBA. It's just going to be a different experience, the same way as it is for Cooper Flagg right now, the same way as it was for Zion Williamson, whose freshman year I enjoyed incredibly. The same way, even for a guy like Kevin Durant, whose freshman year at Texas is one of the best extended sports viewing experiences of my life. And that's going back a long way now, right? But that, I think I was in college at the time. And that was like, oh my God, we have to sit down and watch Kevin Durant play for Texas tonight. Even though they were just, pretty good, okay. They didn't go on a deep tournament run or whatever. It's like, you have to sit down and watch this guy play against college basketball players. It's incredible. And it just is frustrating. And this is coming from just a neutral college basketball fan, right? I have no investment in Kansas whatsoever. If I was a Kansas fan, I'd be extra frustrated because, again, this guy, you mentioned it, he's played 36.7% of available minutes this season without having any obvious stated injury, right? And the minutes he has played, he has generally, with the exception of really most of Monday night, besides the two huge shots down the stretch, he has been electric and incredible and does things that you just can't. Like the first half against BYU was unbelievably good. It
was perfect.
Good. I mean,
yeah.
And set aside the dunk too. The big highlight of the weekend is his dunk over three guys, in the middle of the lane. It's just incredible.
First he gets around to Bance and then he dunks it on Keba Keita. Yeah, incredible.
It's nuts. But the best clip of the game for him was him digging down on a post up, stealing the ball, straight up looking like, and I hate to say this because this is to me the best player of all time. Please don't at me. I'm not trying to involve any LeBron fans here. Looking straight up a fair bit like Michael Jordan, digging down on the post, getting a steal, coming back up the floor, little handoff, takes a screen, comes around to the right wing, and then just whips a pass one-handed to the opposite corner to, I think it was Tiller, it might have been White, I can't remember who was actually.
It's Trey White, yeah.
White in the corner. And the pass was actually better than White's positioning. It put him more in the corner for a more open, better aligned shot than White was even prepared to take. It was just
like a Drew Brees pass that leads you into space. Yeah.
It's just this is unbelievably high level basketball stuff, and we just don't get to see enough of it. And that is, if I was a Kansas fan, it's like you go to the best restaurant in the world, and they tell you can have one appetizer, and then you need to get out, and you just be like, wait, no, I'm here for the whole deal. I want the whole deal, and you only get 35% of the deal. That would be super duper frustrating, but it's just frustrating as a college basketball fan that the minutes haven't been higher. And then, obviously we have the Texas Tech game at Texas Tech Monday night, big transition. I feel like coming into the game, I kind of expected a similar situation to happen just because we're 2 days later now. They had a huge game Saturday. You have all this, drama Saturday and all of these questions and everybody on the internet trying to be sleuths and Kansas fans wondering what's going on and all this stuff. And then he comes out, and plays 35 minutes like it's no big deal. And I really hope that, even though he wasn't his spectacular best tonight, with the exception again of the absolute crucial shots Kansas had to have in the moment down the stretch, I really just hope he is this is where it's going to go the rest of the way. Because it's I get it. It's, your future and whatever, but like, I do think, like, for example, I did a radio thing earlier, and one of their first questions, and I don't think this is, what the NBA people are maybe talking about, but one of the first questions was like, are you concerned? This was pre-Monday night, by the way, pre-Texas Tech. Would you be concerned about Peterson? Does he have health problems? Can he not stay healthy? Or is he actively not being straight up about this whole situation? And is that also a problem? And I just think, like, man, if you get hurt, you're still going to be a top 2 pick. Like, there's just people have seen you play now. It doesn't matter. Please just play the rest of the season. Because I also kind of want to see this Kansas team, like, get in a sustained rhythm. I think this might be Bill Self's best coaching job in at least since the national title year, right? Like, they are a good team now. And with him, they have a chance to be really, really good. And it would just be a shame if we keep going back into this every 2 or 3 games where it's like, DNP, played 15 minutes and then sat out in the second half. Like, let's just play, man.
Yeah, someone texted me that his nickname should be DNP, which I thought was a pretty funny nickname for Darryn Peterson. Pretty good. It is fascinating because in a weird way, it has created a situation where the other guys around him, because of his lack of availability, it's created a world where they've gotten enough experience playing without him that when he is there, it's almost like they have a cheat code, right? I mean, the fact that Melvin Council has had so many moments to have to go be the guy, like we saw on Saturday at the end of that game, and they don't really flinch. I have to give those other 4 guys, those other 4 starters, a lot of credit, and Elmarco Jackson and some of the other players that have sort of filled the role while he's absent. They've been able to find a way to win these games without him, and late in this game, as Texas Tech had the lead, and it kind of felt like, no Christian Anderson in this game, which was another wrinkle where if you told us before the game there would be a guard on a bike that we'd be watching, we would assume it would be Darryn Peterson, but it turned out to be Christian Anderson, which is, something to, file in the back of your memory as we talk about this game, in a few weeks or as we get closer to, resumes and, building out what seeds are going to be. It's like, well, they didn't have Christian Anderson in that game. We understand that. But it did feel like the game was trending in Texas Tech's way. And that kind of has been the time where Peterson has checked himself out. If you watch the TCU game, right, felt like that game was over. TCU was going to win in Allen Fieldhouse. Darryn Peterson says, okay, I'm done with this game. They go on a run without Peterson. Peterson then decides to check himself back into the game, ends up getting fouled on a catch-and-shoot 3, makes all 3 free throws. They go to overtime. They win the game. And, everybody's celebrating. And that felt to me a little bit like the turning point this season for this team. Because again, it's like Darryn Peterson is no guarantee for this team, but when he's there and they have those 5 guys, this is a really, really good starting 5. And they all kind of fit each other very well. Like Trey White is such a great X factor for this group. Melvin Council is a great 1B, 2-star for this team. He's like a 4-star next to a 5-star is basically the best way to put it, but he might be a 4+ star if you wanted to put it in that type of sense. And then the way that Bryson Tiller has been able to up his game, he was incredible against BYU on Saturday, had a good game again tonight, and he and Flory Badunga have been able to, they ran like a 4-5 pick and roll late in this game that led to a lob to Badunga that's just like, oh yeah, this is a really well-oiled machine when it gets rolling, and Bill Self has these guys playing with a purpose on the offensive end. So Kansas has a real shot to make a real run in March, and I think that's why everybody is so invested in getting Peterson to play, because now they look like a Final Four contender, right? I mean, with Peterson on the court, it's like this is one of the best starting 5s in the country, and without him, I mean, they're probably like a Sweet 16 type ceiling, but with him, they could win the national championship, and I think that's really the frustration if you look at it from a college basketball standpoint. It's like, Darryn Peterson, you could win the national championship. That'd be a great story. You talk about selling yourself to the next level, being a winner, being a champion. That still does matter at some level. And I think that's what we really want. We want to see the best version of this Kansas team.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. Like, you look at their lineup breakdowns on cbbanalytics.com, and he is not in the top 4 most used Kansas lineups. And that's just, again, an availability thing. But the lineups without him, those top 3 lineups are all really, really good and really efficient, like on both ends of the floor. And oh wait, he actually is I should correct myself. He's in the second most used lineup, 84 minutes played. That is Actually, yeah, that's their best lineup by far. They're like plus 37 net rating in that lineup. Okay, Darryn Peterson good at basketball. We can acknowledge that. But I think the larger point is it still like makes sense, which is coming into this season, it was the general consensus on Kansas was Bill Self been a bad couple of years, his worst couple of years really in his entire Kansas tenure, right? And this
with health issues as well, you know what I mean? That exacerbates the problem.
100%. The talk of him, potentially laying a path to be succeeded at some point in the near future here, and rearranging his staff accordingly with Jacques Vaughn, and all of that played into it. And then also just looking at the roster and being like, everybody associated with Kansas basketball, anybody who's gone to watch a practice or a shoot around, thinks that Darryn Peterson is unbelievably good, and like the hype is real and he's going to be that good. But the rest of the roster, you looked around and like Council was just okay at St. Bonaventure last year. They tried really hard to get Darian Williams from Texas Tech out of the portal, and NC State got him instead. They tried hard to get a bunch of other guys in the portal and didn't land them. And you sort of come into this season with this roster, and we didn't know Flory Badunga was going to be this good. And you looked at it and just thought, man, they really are going to need Darryn Peterson to do everything. Meanwhile, fast forward to today, Bill Self has this team playing better defense than the team did a year ago, which that was its main calling card a year ago. Was great defense, and Hunter Dickinson playing interior defense. And sure, the team can't shoot or space the floor because there's 3 non-shooters on the floor at any given time, but we can lock down defensively. This is a better defensive team with the likely number 1 overall pick, who occasionally plays, and even when he doesn't, you're getting great stuff and more flexible stuff, more sort of versatile stuff from all of these guys that we kind of wrote off to start the season. Like, I think Bill Self's done an incredible job. And like I said, it would be awesome to just see like the full-on version of this team that Self has in his mind's eye, and that I think a lot of Kansas fans are probably, thinking about, dreaming about, projecting to be on the floor as much as possible, because there's a potentially, special team there. It's just like Saturday was just the perfect example of like unbelievably good first half, weird drama second half, and why are we doing this? And I think Monday night was an interesting, potentially slightly different step, but we'll see how it goes from here.
And maybe the backlash from Saturday will help down the stretch. And I know that that's reading a little bit, into it, and that kind of helps the conspiracy theories. But I do feel like the fact that so many people have put the pieces together and started talking about how insane it is, and how there is, sort of this, weird, elephant in the room that, hey, is he really hurt, or is this is this a business decision, and all this sort of stuff. I think that does play into it. And if you're Darryn Peterson and you can play and you feel good, and I don't know them personally, but just reading the body language of the other 4 guys when Peterson's on the floor, they seem to get along with each other, right? They seem to be connected as a group. Like, they don't seem like there's any animosity, which would feel like that could be possible or plausible just based on the fact that Peterson's been handling this a certain way, and he's been handled a certain way, I should say, not him per se, but like it does feel like Melvin Council loves when he's in the game. Like, he's not afraid to give the ball up to Peterson, and they like playing off of him. So that's the other part of it too. I have to give a lot of credit to the other guys. And to me, Trey White's been the kind of 4 schools in 4 years, you kind of get a bad rap. A lot of people, will think about you in a certain way, but I think he's been, to me, kind of the most important player for this group as far as connecting all those pieces together. And he's been doing the dirty work. And this is a grittier team than I think a lot of us would have expected them to be, especially defensively, like you said. So I really like their starting 5. I think they're a fun group. I think Tiller has been a lot better and a lot more fun to watch than maybe, we could even prognosticate from the start of the year. I mean, I saw it in the Dean Dome. I mean, he hit some big threes in that game. I'm like, who's this guy? It's like, 4-star, coming in, freshman. Well, he's a really good player. He can shoot the three. He spaces it, so Badunga has room in the paint, right? They all kind of fit really well together and gel really well together. So I'm a big fan of this Kansas team. I think the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball this year. I think that's fair to say. And they're going to get beat up physically as you do in the Big 12, and I think that's going to help them in March. And if they all play and Peterson plays 35 minutes, I mean, that's the most he's played all year, I believe. Then the sky really is the limit for this group.
Yeah, it's an exciting thing to consider because again, they've been through this weird sort of purgatory with him not playing, and I do think there could be some. Bill Self's talked about this also. Plenty is there's potentially positives in that, right? And you see that with a guy like Melvin Council, who, again, you go back to November, and I'm sure we talked about it at the time or whenever we talked about it, but just like, high volume, low efficiency guy out of St. Bonaventure. Like, this is the guy who has the ball in his hands a lot, and you look at him now, and he's doing lots of really clean, efficient stuff, making the right play, making smart plays, getting into the stuff that works for him, and you can just see the effect of good coaching, and I think you see that throughout the team. So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. We're going to talk a little bit about the rest of the freshmen because we had the Peterson drama. We're not too far removed from two freshmen dropping 40 plus. That was just the weekend prior on the same day. And I feel like this is, again, and maybe this is just, having done a radio thing and kind of trying to get the vibe of like, all right, let's chicken on college basketball. What's going on in college basketball? And it's just people want to talk about the freshmen, which I get because they're the guys who people are going to be watching as individuals for the next 10, 15 years in some cases. And it's also interesting because while all this drama is happening with Peterson, and he's the number 1 overall pick, and he's the number 1 prospect coming in this year, 1A, 1B with DeBonsa, whatever. You've got Wagler over here, who is, I have to pull up this tweet from Jared Burson, who is a statistical researcher at Jared Burson on Twitter. Illinois' Keaton Wagler is the first Division I player over the last 20 seasons with multiple career games with 25 plus points and road wins over AP top 5 teams. He scored 74 points in 2 road wins over top 5 teams over the last 8 days. And it will forever mystify me how Illinois, and I've read the story of how they got, again, we talked about it on last week's show. CJ Moore did a great feature talking about how Illinois found him, recruited him, realized he was as good as he is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, Shawnee, Kansas is not out in western Kansas in the middle of nowhere. It's not far from Kansas City. I do not know how people did not realize this guy was as good as he was because he was about this height last year. It's not like he grew over the summer or something. And so you've got him just absolutely tearing it up, playing himself into, top 10 lottery pick type, positioning in the draft coming up. And I feel like I lose track of individual freshmen in this year's class because there's so many that are so good. All the while, Cam Boozer is the best player in college basketball. It's kind of by a wide margin. He's easily the most productive player in college basketball. He's averaging 24, 10, and 6 or something on huge efficiency. Duke is 20-1, just turning everybody in the ACC, a good ACC, an improved ACC, in dust. And so I thought it might be fun to go down the list of our best freshmen of the season so far. Not necessarily draft pick status wise, but just kind of how good they've been as college players in the last few months. So I'm going to go ahead and put Boozer as my number 1, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Boozer should be number 1. I was actually looking at box plus minus just throughout college basketball, and Boozer's first in box plus minus, and he's 18.7. The next closest is 15.5, which is Yaxel Lindeborg with Michigan. And then from there, it's 3 more freshmen. So, the top 5 in college basketball in box plus minus. I mean, again, there's a lot of stats you can point to. So this is just one stat. Again, it's the old Vin Scully. It's like a lot of people use the numbers like a drunk uses a lamppost. It's for something to rely on, and it's not for illumination. But again, I'm using it right now just to rely on the eye test of what we're seeing. I think Boozer is by far. Like you said, we're not talking about the number one prospect. We're talking about the number one player in college basketball. I think he's obviously played up to that level. And if you watch Duke play, it's like everything, just like it was when he was in high school, just like it was when he was on the Nike EYBL circuit, which, funny enough, he played on the team with Caleb Wilson, right? It was Caleb, Caden Boozer, and Cameron Boozer. Those are kind of the big three of that team. So, I mean, Caleb was the third guy on that team. It was kind of the Boozer twins. And then, this other guy, the five-star Caleb Wilson, which is crazy if you go back and watch. I think their name was the Knight Riders or something like that. But yeah, I think Cameron Boozer, number one, no argument otherwise. I think he has to be the guy. And I think a lot of people you see the flash and they don't see kind of the athletic pop that they want to see. And that's why they have an immediacy to kind of write it off a little bit. But if you just watch how efficient he is, how fundamentally sound he is, how he can do pretty much anything he wants on a basketball court. I compared him to Tyler Hansbrough when I first saw him, and a lot of people got really upset with me for saying that. But the reason I said that was because he so quietly dominates a game where you look up and you're like, oh yeah, he has 18 and 9 already. It's just like he does it so seamlessly that there's really no other way to talk about it other than, man, this guy's incredible. So Cam Boozer, number one. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. He breaks my brain a little bit because he's a freshman. He's a projected top 5 pick, but he plays like a 4-year, super solid,
Yes.
well developed.
Right.
Like he looks like a senior physically. And this might just be from covering college basketball, 10, 12, 15 years ago when these kinds of guys were like not as seemingly, you had to be rangy and long and move side to side super fast or whatever. And maybe the NBA has moved beyond that a little bit and is a little bit more granular in terms of like, yeah, but I mean, watch this guy pass, watch him close space, watch him, hold the ball at the post and then make the right decision. Like all of these little things that are maybe more impactful than just like, what's your wingspan or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he does play and look like a guy who is like a 4-year starter at Duke who, was pretty good as a freshman and then great for 3 years or whatever. Like it's, 20, 25, 30 years ago in college basketball. So he does kind of break my brain a little bit, but and you're right about the highlight stuff is like, Darryn Peterson this past weekend played for however many minutes and got like an insane, package of highlights that probably Boozer hasn't had the entire season if you put, 2 YouTube clips side by side or whatever. And one guy is playing on a team that just keeps destroying everyone and putting up again like a 24-point double with however many assists and 2 steals a game and is just like insanely productive. So yeah, okay, Boozer's number one. He is the best player in college basketball. So it's at least the most productive. You can, if people have a different view because of how they project to the next level, that's fine. But
it's just 2 different conversations, and it's okay to like separate the 2 conversations.
100%.
It's like we're talking about college basketball, and in college basketball, he's incredible, and he's also probably going to be incredible at the next level. But that's a separate conversation, right? I mean, that's really the way to do it.
And I kind of like, I'm not a draft expert, and again, there's probably reasons why this is wrong. I kind of see him just being like a pretty solid pro for like 10 years or whatever. Will probably make a ton of money. Don't anticipate him being like an electric franchise-saving guy, and could be wrong about that too. We'll see how it goes.
But if he's Paul Millsap, like like that to me kind of feels like what he plays like. David West, Paul Millsap, like someone like that, which is like a multiple-time All-Star, a franchise piece. You know what I mean? Like that's no knock on him, and he probably will end up being better than that just because I said that. But like that's the problem. It's like all the projection takes away from the production, and the production that he has in college basketball is uncanny. It's on a different level, and he right now should be the favorite for National Player of the Year.
100%.
And I feel like he's obviously that guy. He's the right answer.
It's not even close. I mean, Ken Pom does his like player, player stats rankings or whatever, his KPOY or whatever. Number 2, Josh Jefferson at Iowa State is at, the rating is 1.936. Cam Boozer is 2.77. Like, he is an order of magnitude. Which is
kind of where Flag was last year, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, they're kind of like on the same number. Yeah.
Yeah, he is way, way above. And last year you had Janai Broome, you had Walter Clayton. Like, there's lots of good players in college basketball this year, 100%. But there's no one really close to his level of efficiency and production for a really, really good team. He's out on his own. So, yeah, that's an easy number 1. We probably honestly spent too much time talking about, but he fascinates. He
deserves it.
He fascinates me too. Every time I watch him, the Tyler Hansbrough thing is dead on. I don't even know what the college basketball player that I think of when I see him, but I do not see this guy is a 19-year-old future number 4 pick in the draft or whatever. Meanwhile, he's just turning everybody in the ACC into dust. For my number 2, I have Wagler. I think this is fair, and I think people might disagree with this, but only because there's so many other guys. I think he's been the second best freshman in the country, particularly over the last month when he's really come into his own. Obviously, the last week we read out the stat, but this guy is if Illinois is going to win a national title, this guy that they pulled out of Shawnee, Kansas, who was ranked in the 200s or whatever in the composite rankings, is probably going to be the unguardable 6'5" point guard who's hit step back threes is probably going to be the reason why.
Yeah, I love Wagler. I love watching him play. I love that his high school was at the Nebraska game. I think when you were talking about he was hiding in plain sight, it's he didn't go to a prep school. He went to a real high school, and he has these relationships with his team still. And it was the closest game they had to his high school, so they all drove up to Nebraska. He took a picture with the whole team. It was a little bit of a throwback, right? We don't see the last hidden gem that I feel like we had kind of at this level, even though he was at Wazoo. I mean, Cedric Coward is probably the closest one where it's just kind of came out of nowhere, and he was just an incredible player. But Cedric got hurt 7 games into the season, so we didn't get to see the full version of him last year. But what you saw in the first spurts, right, it was incredible. And I think Wagler has been one of those guys. It's a great story. His passing is incredible. I think that's the greatest part of the Underwood. He saw it on tape. He was the one guy he didn't see in person. That was American that he offered, and it was just because of the passing that he saw on tape. But then you throw in the step backs, you throw in his ability to score pretty seamlessly, you throw in the pace that he plays with, right? I mean, just plays at this kind of innate, natural pace. He doesn't get forced. And I actually saw the Kuzi list they put out of the top 10 guys. And I know it's because Boswell is technically the point guard of this team, and I know Boswell is hurt right now, and Wagler's having to take over the point guard duties, but I feel like he has to be a Kuzi candidate because of what he's been able to do over the past month playing point guard. So, I mean, I don't know if they can he'll be a Jerry West candidate as a shooting guard because this is what he's listed as, but him playing the point guard spot for this Illinois team has been drastically it made them a drastically different team, and a team that started 6-0 on the road in conference play for the first time since 2004, 2005. We both know what that team looked like with Luther Head, D. Brown, Darryn Williams, right? I mean, that is the conversation that we're in with this Illinois team because of how good Wagler has been. So I like him at number 2. Can I tell you my number 2?
Please do.
Because it's leading me into a great matchup on Saturday. I think Caleb Wilson is number 2, and I think it's leading into just first, the reason why is I saw him go head-to-head against Darryn Peterson in person. And Darryn Peterson was great in that game at North Carolina. Seth Trimble did a good job against him, but Peterson got, for the most part, anything he wanted. But Caleb Wilson took on that matchup head-to-head and played an incredible game. And what he's been able to do, breaking Hansbrough's record, breaking the freshman record at North Carolina for points. He leads the ACC in double-doubles. He has more double-doubles than Cameron Boozer, who he just talked about as our number 1 pick. So the fact that we get to see Caleb Wilson versus Cam Boozer on Saturday in the Dean Dome and what Caleb has been able to do, and you talked about highlights. Like, I know Cam Boozer doesn't have these theatricality of what we want to see with the highlights, but there's a man who does, and his name is Caleb Wilson. And I do feel like if you haven't seen the package and you haven't put it together, my goodness, it's overwhelming. And he and Vasar have such a good rapport with each other. I talked about Tiller and Badunga, how they do the 4-5, the big to big passing. What Vasar and Caleb have with each other as far as just being able to feel where they are, throw it up to the rim, get easy buckets, kind of settle things down on the offensive end. It's a very Roy Williams-esque front court with those two guys. So Caleb, to me, has been incredible. I love his mindset. I love the way that he's embraced being a college kid. Like, he's on campus, he's hanging out with students. Like, it's just kind of it's just like refreshing, I guess would be the best word for it. So he's been dominant. He's been great. And I just think that he and Cam Boozer have a weird kind of fun rivalry with each other. It's almost like a sibling rivalry because they're so close to each other. And I'm excited to see that matchup. And I just feel like for storyline purposes for this weekend leading up to it, I like the idea of Cam being 1, Caleb being 2, and we get a 1 versus 2 on Saturday. So I'll take Caleb at number 2.
I love that we're in Duke Carolina territory of the season right now, because the first game is usually like late January, early February, and then obviously the second game is almost always the last Saturday of the season. So
yeah, last Saturday of the season, right?
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, Caleb Wilson is fantastic. I don't hate that at number 2 at all. I had him at number 4, but I can totally see it. My number 3 is Kingston Flemings as a just a pure college player who is also a freshman. And we talked about this. I remain convinced that if Houston is going to get over that hump, which, to be honest, they were a bucket away last year, right? They were in Emmanuel Sharp, just let the ball go and maybe it goes in, as opposed to trying to re-dribble it and getting yourself, stuck at the most important moment of the season. They were that away from winning the national title against an amazing Florida team last year. So it's not like they're
and they beat probably the best team in the country. If we're being you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fact that they beat Duke the way that they did and came back in that game, that almost felt like a national championship type game. That was incredible.
That was the Final Four last year. Both games were just like all 4 of these teams in most years would be the national champion.
The champion, right?
There'd be all 4 of those teams last year were the teams who would roll through the tournament, win the national title game by 22 points or whatever. And it was just of course this team is, going to win the title. Whatever.
I wish we had one of those teams to play UConn in 2024. You know what I mean?
We didn't have it. We didn't have it. Yeah. No, that's the thing is that they all 4 last year were teams of that caliber. And shockingly, UConn wasn't at the party, but maybe they will be this year. Still 21-1, just one defeat and some headroom to go. But anyway, I have Flemings as my number 3, just because again, Houston's offense has been super duper reliant on throughout Kelvin Sampson's tenure on, hey, we'll take shots, we might miss them, we'll get the offensive rebound, we'll reload it. That might actually end up being our best look when we come out of it. It's never been predicated on flowing offense. Speaking of UConn, they're not running UConn level sets to get open looks for 4 or 5 different guys at any given point. And those possessions that can die out, where it's, Uzan at the top of the key dribbling the ball out a little bit and getting a step back 3 late in the clock. Now you have Kingston Flemings on the ball. And that sprinkling of stardust over the top of a very veteran team that still rebounds the ball really well, it still defends really well, I think is one reason I'm still pretty high on Houston as a national title contender, even though you put Michigan, Arizona, Michigan, Duke, whatever, in whatever order. Those are the 3 clear favorites to me, and then maybe you stick Iowa State in there. Don't want to make Iowa State fans mad, but those 3
they got a big stretch coming up to prove it.
They do, and those three teams, I feel like even your most diehard Iowa State fan would probably say, okay, fine, fair enough, right? That's what kind of makes me want to put Houston in that group, even though we've watched them, we've talked about them a lot. Their record's great, their numbers are great. There have been moments where we've kind of worried about them a little bit. And the offense a little bit, but Flemings is kind of that good, and Sanak is not far off either.
Yeah, I love that whole Harwell as well. I love those
Yeah.
three freshmen for Houston. I just feel like
I always
it's
forget
great to
Harwell
see.
too. I feel bad about that. I always ignore him, and you always remind me. Like he's
Well,
he's also really good.
He's like the seventh, eighth guy, but
Yeah.
he's just like when he comes in, he can do something special too, and he's super talented. But it is fun to see freshmen kind of like be welcomed into the Houston Hard Knock fraternity. You know, like it's hard to crack Kelvin Sampson, and the fact that he loves those guys, and the fact that I had Flemings at 4, so it's like right in the same sweet
swapped them.
spot. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I swapped them. But it is, it's so fun to see a freshman kind of get the green light from Kelvin Sampson, because it didn't feel like that's really possible, especially with some of the guys they had coming back, Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, right? So the fact that he has that kind of shows the level of respect that he has earned and garnered from Kelvin Sampson. But also Sampson still coaches him really hard, as we've talked about. Sampson just still, after every game, even when he has 42 points, he's like, well, he missed some plays out there defensively. He's
Some
not where he needed
closeouts
to
were
be.
not good enough today.
Yeah, exactly.
And Flemings does the same thing too. It's so funny. He's like, I was terrible defensively today. It's like, dude, you just had 28 and 5 or whatever. But
you had the most points for a Houston player ever under Sampson, but you still have a lot to figure out. Yeah, it's good.
It is.
like
It's
that.
yeah, the vibe is good. Combining that with the whole Houston culture and Sampson like drilling these guys into total, almost robotic submission of like, this is what we do at Houston. You rebound like crazy. You fight for everything. Blah blah blah. Again, putting a little bit of that freshman elite talent, like Carmelo Anthony style stuff, over the top of it, is very interesting. Remains intriguing to me. I have Debanza at number 5, which I'm sure he wouldn't be thrilled with. I'm sure the people hyping up Saturday's game against Kansas as a matchup of him and Peterson wouldn't be super happy with. But I don't think he's the best player on his team. I think he's extremely good. But Richie Saunders, once again, for the second straight year, has a lottery pick on his team with him and is the best player on the floor most of the time. Now, Debanza does the more eye-popping stuff. He does a lot of great stuff. He can get a lot of different kinds of shots when he wants to. But when I see BYU playing well and when they're flowing, it's because Saunders is doing stuff most of the time. And so, again, Debanza still like top 5 freshman in an insane class, and we're going to talk about a couple more of these guys in a second. But I feel like if you're not the best player in your team, you can't be in number 1, number 2, number 3 spot when we're talking about freshmen. And by the way, I don't have Peterson up here at all, like because we talked about just because of availability. If he was playing, 31 minutes a game, he'd probably be closer to the top of this list as well. But there are caveats and production matters here, and that's where I have, AJ where he is.
Yeah, I put Peterson at 5 just because they went head to head, and I do feel like Peterson's going to play. I mean, I'm knocking on wood as I say that. I do feel like he's going to play out the rest of the year and prove that point, and probably end up jumping up to number 2 at the end of the day, maybe even number 1 if he plays at the level that we saw at the end of the game against Texas Tech and what we've seen in flashes throughout the season. But I put him at 5 just because, of what I've seen in the small moments that I've had him there, and I feel like it's a nice way to get AJ maybe to play like. That first half, it felt like the most selfish I've seen him play, where he's holding the ball a little bit. Felt like he was trying to and of course it was built up that way and build that way. In 1 versus 2, he's like trying to respond to what Peterson's doing. I just felt like he got out of sorts and out of his own game. And I think Kevin Young kind of alluded to that fact, where he's just like the ball sticking with him a little bit too much. And Richie does a good job of getting off the ball, creating opportunities for other. And I will say this in AJ's defense. If he had a point guard that was looking for him in his spots a little bit more, and that's, Robert Wright is a good player, but I think Robert Wright is looking for, what's best for him most of the time, which is very fair. And look, that's the highest scoring trio in the country. There's a reason why, because all 3 of those guys can score at a very high clip. But that's, for me, that's the reason why I had to Debanza out. But I mean, you could swap in a lot of guys in that 5th spot. But I feel like that 4 is a pretty solid 4, and they've performed at a high level throughout the season, with Flemings, Wagler, Wilson, and Boozer. And outside of Boozer being number 1, I feel like you could interchange the other 3 and feel really good about it. Then in the 5th spot, Debanza, Peterson, whoever one, you want to pick there. But that's the fascinating part, because those guys are going to end up going number 1 and number 2 in the draft. But you and I are talking in a college basketball sense, and they're, fighting for the 5th spot in our starting 5. So I think that's the other kind of fascinating wrinkle there.
100%. And look, I mean, my list from there, I've got Darius Acuff next.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Mikael Brown after that, although I might maybe revise that and swap in Braden Burry's a spot above, and also maybe do a joint Braden Burry's Koa Pete thing, because first impressions tend to stick with people, and Koa Pete had about the best first impression of any college basketball player. I mean, the first night of the season was sensational against Florida. Guy that I'm super high on, that I think, it seems like NBA people are super high on too, but that is, I feel like, could be a real X factor for UConn now is Mullins. I feel like every time I watch him play, and every time UConn plays anything close to a big game, which obviously they will coming up this weekend and this week, like, I have friends texting me like, yo, who is this kid on UConn? It's like, I know he's pretty smooth, right? Like everything looks like it's going in all the time. So I'm very high on him. And the problem with this freshman class is that I feel like I forget guys. Like I almost finished my list without mentioning him. I just now didn't include Nate Amon, who has really started to turn it around. Okori at Stanford, like, we got a lot of dudes.
Okori top 5 in the country in scoring, a freshman. So, he's definitely in the mix there. Alan Graves at Santa Clara, right? Steinbach at Washington, right? And then if you do like the European guys who are technically freshmen, like Tis de Ritter, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, right. You start going, you're like, Jesus, there's so many guys to choose from. The starting 5 turns into 15 real quick.
It's an embarrassment of riches. And I remember covering, really ostensibly good freshman classes going back like at ESPN and whatever, because that would draw a lot of attention. The idea would sometimes be, okay, we can get people to pay attention in college basketball because they're so concerned with the draft that they want to watch all these guys play against each other. And it's like why people show up to the Champions Classic that might not normally, attend a college basketball game in November or whatever. And I really don't remember, not to just like fall into the prevailing hype on this, I really don't remember a freshman class as good or as deep as this. It is really crazy. Now, having said that, on Saturday, Jamal Mashburn said that he would take Cooper Flagg 6th in the 2026 draft if he was.
I love Mash. That's my guy. I was fired up when I saw it. I was like, talk about it and get a headline.
Just if you're trying to do a take, I get it. It's cool. And that's the game is the game. But if that's a sincere opinion, then we have to have a discussion, because look, man,
this is on the heels of Cooper having 49 points, by the way.
He's 19 years old. He just had 49 points in an NBA game. Like, what are we talking about? Like, we have visual like, that's the thing, is like, it would be one thing if Cooper Flagg was like this super highly touted prospect who was still in high school, and people were like, oh, actually, this freshman class is way better, and NBA GMs were sort of reorienting their next year or two of strategy because they're not all in on getting this guy who's 17 when you have all these great college players, and all of a sudden Wagler is amazing and blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. No, like, we have visual evidence and data to back up the strong suspicion that I have that Cooper Flagg is going to be a very good NBA player for the foreseeable future, if not perennial all-star, which he's 19. Like, he has a very good chance to be like a frequent all-star. And so you have this evidence staring you in the face versus the potential of some of these guys. Like, if you're a GM and you want to be like, I'm watching Darryn Peterson play, it's spurts, we'll figure out the health stuff, we're good, we're taking him number 1 overall. Okay, fine, you take Flagg 2. Like, there's no discussion. And if you're an NBA GM and you were doing this thought experiment, I would love to hear from the people who sincerely hold that opinion or have been telling reporters that, because that's not, Mashburn didn't, like, he didn't say that totally without context. Like there have been some, like some writing and some NBA reporters talking about like GMs are kind of thinking this way about this draft, which I think is meant as a way of like boosting this draft and people being excited about it. But I think it's like kind of insane. I mean, if I was an NBA GM and you run the thought experiment on me of like, hey man, your job is on the line. You're gonna take AJ DeBanza number 2, or are you gonna take Cooper Flagg number 2? And it's just like, I know what I'm choosing to do given the knowledge that I have in front of me.
Yeah, Flagg's going number 1. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, even with Peterson, like there's just no. I mean, we can.
You can talk me into it, is what I'm saying with Peterson, maybe.
Yeah,
but like Flagg is like, come on, dude. Like you're not taking him under
just,
any of these other guys at all.
Well, and especially like we've only seen really in NBA history. Bigs and wings have been the way to win national, championships. I almost called them national championships, but NBA championships. And, Isaiah Thomas is an aberration. Michael Jordan is an aberration. But, like, for the most part, you're talking about wings and forwards and bigs. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're dealing with. So, like, Cooper Flagg would go number 1. Peterson would go number 2. DeBanza would go 3. Boozer would go 4. Wilson would go 5. And the list moves on. But I do think there's something in the water cooler at TNT Studios, because we had Monster Mash, my guy, say that, which was insane. And then on Sunday, Bruce Pearl said that he thinks that Alabama should be banned from the NCAA tournament because of Bediako playing. So, like, between those two takes over the weekend, I was floored by what was happening there at TNT. And I did not see, like, the full clip. Like, the clip I saw of Mash saying that it kind of ended after he said that. And I don't know if Lefko followed up, like, I just want to know, like, who are the 5 in front of Cooper Flagg, Yeah. Like if you can give me the 5 that are in front of him, then maybe there's like some sort of rationale there. But I do love Jamal Mashburn. I had his jersey growing up, so I'm a big fan of Mash, but I was shocked by that. I've never seen anything like it. So
firing off takes. I mean, look, again, the game is the game. I don't hate it, but you should have to, if you give a number as specific as 6, you should then have to name the 5 guys that you are thinking that would go in front of him. Because, I mean, like...
Well, he brought up Caleb Wilson, which I'm like, this is unfair to Caleb. Now Caleb's, like, getting compared to Cooper Flagg, and I'm like, okay, this is not a good boat to be in.
I mean, we watched the season last year. Cooper Flagg was unbelievable the entire year, and he played a vast majority of available minutes. And that team is one of the best teams not to win the national title. Like, that they are up there with the... not to rag on Duke or
2015
anything.
Kentucky.
They're up there with Kentucky. They're up there with the Zion Duke team. Like they're up there among the best teams never to win the title. And
can I give you a hot take? I think they're better than the 2019 Duke team.
Oh, 100%.
I think they would beat them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
I mean, that's
again, we have more. We are gathering new evidence every day. Con Knippel might win Rookie of the Year over Cooper Flagg. Like,
yeah, that's the other part. It's like, are you taking 6 guys over Knippel?
Yeah,
would be the other question.
No, you're
because, like,
absolutely
the Hornets
not.
have won 7 games in a row, and I've turned into a Con Knippel stan. You know what I mean? I'm like, I love watching this kid play.
I mean, he's unbelievable. He's really, really good, and just like the ideal, like, can I please draft a guy, or can I find a guy in college basketball who's a high school player who will come in and just play like this? Unselfish, shoot the ball extremely efficiently, and just kind of do whatever.
Make the right play over and over and over again.
Doesn't matter who I'm playing with, just do the right stuff all the time. It's pretty crazy. And as a true ball knower, as his various podcasts with your boss have demonstrated, he's just a big fan of, like, he's just like a normal fan of, like, pop culture sports. He was explaining the Titanic to Brandon Miller the other day in a clip I saw. I'm just like, this is incredible. Like, I love these guys. Yeah, no, the Hornets are the best. I don't know if you find 5 guys. I don't know if you'd find 3 guys to take over either of them. Okay. Let's go back to the college game. And this past weekend, we had, a pretty important game leading up with a lot of lead up coming into it, the Florida-Alabama game. Obviously, the Bediako thing hangs over Alabama at all times now. Todd Golden.
G League dropout. Yeah, they were
the chant was happening. Todd Golden was on his radio show shortly after the Bediako decision, I guess the temporary injunction or whatever, came down, talking about how they were going to beat Alabama anyway and why he thought it was wrong and et cetera and so forth. And to his credit, backed it up with a 100-77 win over Alabama, and then responded again in the post game talking about his players not being in the lane for more than 1 second because Nate Oates said something somewhat, unflattering or whatever about Florida spending too much time in the lane, maybe trying to get some calls in advance. Didn't work. I'm kind of in on Florida. We've talked about them a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't want to totally repeat the same things over and over again. But like the leap that Chinyelu has made is kind of mind-boggling, from being like a big, strong, physical, good offensive, defensive rebounder guy to like now spending entire 30-second possessions locking up the entirety of one of the best.
Yeah, getting switched on the guards basketball. And it's like no problem. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 72 points in the paint was the story of this game, and that goes back to the front court that you're talking about. I mean, I thought Condon would be the story of this team. It's obviously Houck and it's obviously Chinyelu, and those two guys have just been stars. And I mean, Condon also has been great, and I mean, they just have like a group of guys there in the front court that are pretty much unmatched in the country. I mean, Duke is up there as far as their front court, North Carolina, Michigan. I mean, there's some teams that can match up with them, but I still would take Florida's group. And, if you said before the game, hey, Alabama's going to shoot over 40% from three, you'd say, that's pretty good. I like their chances. If they shoot over 40% from three, maybe they have a chance in this game. And it's like, no, because Florida dominates the game inside out, and they just physically dominated this team, and Nate Oates just seemed a little bit lost and didn't really have much answers throughout this game. And I like the poking and the prodding between these two coaches. They're kind of obviously listening to one another, and they obviously have some thoughts on each other, and there might be a little bit of animosity between the two of those guys. But I mean, Todd Golden coached a great game. He had Summerall, the football coach, there next to him. They were having a good time. It was a good day for to be a Florida Gator fan, because they just dominated this game. And then Florida, they took 13 threes in this game. They shoot 23%. It doesn't matter. Like that was the other part to me. It was just like, it kind of just showed like the new mythology versus kind of the old mythology of like how basketball works. And like Florida's like, we do it better, like because we play it the easy way. You guys are playing the variants, and we're playing real basketball, and we win 9 times out of 10. And they did in this game. And 100-77, the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me, it looks very different and is structured tactically very differently, but it kind of reminds me of the Gonzaga teams that were like number 1 seed every year with, Drew Timme and Chet the 1 year, but like the guys around them, like with Timme on that team, they just got layup after layup after layup. It was just easy bucket, easy bucket, easy bucket, easy bucket.
Karnowski, that team.
Yeah, and they didn't even shoot that. Like, they felt like a high-flying offense because they got up and down. But you actually, would check in on their numbers, and, like, they shot it, like, a good percentage from three, but they didn't take a ton of threes because they were constantly getting wide-open layups. And, again, very different structurally with Florida. Sort of looks much different, but it's kind of the same end result of like, yeah, you go 3 of 13 from three. As long as we talked about this in the past with Florida, who I think remains one of my most fascinating teams of the season, just because, again, this whole roster construction kind of shouldn't work as well as it now currently seems to be working. And still not getting great stuff from Xavier Lee. Like, he still is not, I mean, he's been better, but he's not like lighting it up. He had 6 points in this game. But if Florida doesn't turn the ball over, they had 2 turnovers in this game, which is pretty incredible considering who they were playing against and kind of the pace and the chaos that Alabama tries to foment. If they don't turn the ball over, they're going to get a shot up. They're probably going to get a rebound. They're probably going to score. That's kind of as simple as it needs to get. And they just, yeah, like it very much a clash of like, you know, you can see because of Nate Oates and the way he is, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, like because he is a stylistic ideologue in many ways. Like he is like, no, we play this way. It's the most efficient way to play. I've done all the numbers. We have run all of the models. This is how you must play to be most effective, most optimized, et cetera, et cetera. You can see him being like, oh, they're going to throw out all these big guys. Okay, we got to space them out. We got to hit our threes, blah, 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 blah. And Florida just kind of blows the whole thing up. And the Chinyelu highlights that have been going around in the day and a half since kind of demonstrative, just like, no, yeah, we just have this massive guy who can also guard guards, and he's just going to make all the stuff that you want to do not make sense to you anymore. It was a super
and force
impressive.
You into 17 turnovers. I mean, because of the size.
Yeah,
I mean that was the thing.
Totally all over them, and yeah, I mean, even setting aside all the Bediako stuff and the sort of chirping back and forth, like just a super duper impressive performance. Speaking of which, I wanted to talk to you about this. Fred Hoiberg, after the loss to Illinois, which Nebraska's second loss of the season, sky's hardly falling. You know, they went undefeated.
They should have won at Michigan. Like, you know what I mean?
Very
like,
easily could have won
give Michigan, give Michigan credit for finishing that game. But like Nebraska kind of had that game in control until it slipped away in the end.
And without Mass too, like Mass didn't play in that game, which is
and he barely played in the Illinois game. He couldn't make a shot until like the last 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. But Fred Hoiberg was kind of talking about, and this is maybe something interesting to watch, like Price Sanford getting grabbed and held, particularly in the second half, I think. And that's the only reason I bring it up is I feel like that's something I've noticed a little bit more coming back into the game. Like you remember we had all the freedom of movement stuff around like 2011, 2012, 2013 that actually I think made a real impact on how the sport has been played since in a positive way. And I do feel like I'm noticing and seeing a lot more of the off-ball grabbing, the holding, and the sort of shrinking of space, even as teams are doing more to counteract it sort of proactively. And so I'll be interested to see like if this becomes a thing, because it was definitely present against Illinois. At the same time, Illinois is running out a 2-3 zone in that second half with like everybody's, Wagler is the shortest guy. He's 6'5". Everybody else is like 6'9". That's on the floor. So it's going to be imposing no matter what you do. But I'll be interested to see if there's a little bit of like a discussion about this in this upcoming offseason. And if we can have an offseason discussion about basketball that doesn't involve like, hey, so should Luka Doncic be eligible, or like it'll be nice to it would be nice to have like an actual the NCAA to have an actual like rules discussion and see if there's and I'm not even making a statement on it, if they feel like there's a need for this kind of thing, because I think Hoiberg talking about it publicly after the game as a pretty reserved guy makes me think there's a little bit of that kind of a coach who wants his teams to play with flow, maybe getting a little frustrated with where the game is kind of going.
Well, that's also kind of a product of bringing over products of EuroLeague, right? I mean, EuroLeague is much more physical, and there is a lot of grabbing, there is a lot of holding, and I think that's kind of, I think that's rubbed off on Illinois as a team. Now, not everybody out there, Jake Davis wasn't playing over in EuroLeague, but he's playing like a EuroLeague guy. You know what I mean? Like the physicality of what he's doing. Hummerkaus, same sort of deal. Like it feels like some of that stuff from the Ivisiches or Merkovich or whatever it is, like they've picked up little subtle ways to get you out of your flow and get you out of your rhythm and get you out of like where you're supposed to be with certain timing. It's kind of like chipping somebody to line in football. You know what I mean? It's like that is what Illinois has. And I think the physicality of Illinois is why I really like them as a group as it kind of moves into the NCAA tournament, because one, I think it's hard to call it every single time, and two, I just think that they do it in a very smooth fashion. Like it definitely is a thing, and it is a good talking point. And I do feel like it'll probably be addressed at some point in the offseason, but for now, it works. And we saw it against Nebraska. We saw it this whole week for Illinois. I mean, number 5 in the country now, and back-to-back top 5 wins. That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, kind of take a step back and like look at Brad Underwood. Since 2021, they were a 1 seed, 4 seed, 9 seed, 3 seed, 6 seed. This is after, the John Gross tenure, which, resulted in one tournament bid his first season. Like, they are now like a really good team every year. It's kind of incredible. And whatever form that takes, you know what I mean? Like it's been stylistically different. Not every year, but almost every year. And, they're the best offensive team in the country, and they do play with that physicality. I wonder also if Hoiberg was getting a little frustrated because of the way the second half against Michigan went, because it did feel like Michigan started to impose physicality like noticeably more in the second half. And I think that's
especially in like the last 6 minutes of that game. It felt like it changed like the way it was called almost.
And it's like when you're watching it, you're sort of like, Michigan's, they're amping up the defense here, and then you go back and look at it. If you're like Fred Hoiberg, you're like, well, he was getting grabbed. He couldn't move the way he was moving in the first half when we were flowing and hitting shots and getting space. Like there's potentially something there that is kind of interesting to watch, because like I said, the game, the college game, I don't think anybody involved in the college game, particularly at the NCAA offices, wants to let it slide to the point where it was like, oh God, we have to fix this. And you remember the season where it was like, all right, the new freedom of motion rules are in, and the first 5 games of everyone's season led history in the number of free throws taken or whatever. Like no one wants to go back to that. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if there's some tweaks, particularly as we mentioned with Florida, as teams are maybe starting to trend a little bit bigger and a little bit more physical. And this is how you can counteract your Alabamas and your Nebraskas of the world. So something to keep an eye on. Indiana won at UCLA, which apparently was the first time Indiana's ever played at Pauley Pavilion, which kind of surprised me, just given
it's a great game.
It was a great game. And honestly, the first time this year that I've visibly watched a team blow a lead in the way that felt like the NCAA tournament, where like all of a sudden we're pressing and you're getting pressed, and you're like, you can see everyone on the team go, oh shit. Where am I supposed to throw the ball? Where like no one's open. And just like a string of possessions piling up on you. And it was impressive that they came, they recovered from it and won in double OT. Huge week for Indiana, winning that game, and also obviously winning the home game against Purdue, which again, as I said at the top of the show, I thought they were going to get run in, but maybe the presence of Coach Signetti and the football guys gave them a little.
It's also nice that it's not. I know that it's, obviously Tucker DeVries has had a great college tenure, but I feel like it's nice even in the UCLA game especially. It's like, it's not really DeVries that's, it's Lamar Wilkerson, it's Nick Dorn, it's Reed Bailey, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's not just like, hey, Tucker DeVries, go save us and be a hero, It feels like there's more going on there. So I feel, to me, that like gives me more optimism for like the rest of the season for Indiana. And they had to win that game. It felt like it was like to keep yourself in the conversation. They really needed to win that game. So it was a nice quad 1 win there for Indiana. So, I mean, to win that game on the road in overtime, I know Mick Cronin was a little upset about,
there was a review that maybe went the wrong way.
Yeah, there was a review that he wanted, and you know what I mean? Like, it's classic Mick Cronin after the game. He, some reporter like tried his best to be like, well, you guys played some good defense to open the game. He was like, you don't know what you're watching. We never played good defense. It was very Mick Cronin, but it was good for Indiana to find a way to win that game.
No, yeah, it was huge, and yeah, like Bailey's playing better. Wilkerson's been great all year.
Yeah, for sure.
They again, it's just like, it's the baseline stuff. I mean, Connor Enright's been great lately, and then Nick Dorn is like an X factor who suddenly is, one of the most efficient scorers in college basketball, even though
26 points. Yeah,
popping up out of kind of, I mean, of all the transfers Indiana brought in this past year, and there were 12 or 13, he might have been, the 10th or 11th most discussed, and now he looks like a real player. So it'll be interesting to see where Indiana goes from here. Last thing I wanted to bring up with you. Oh, Kentucky won. Kentucky beat Coach Cal in Fayetteville.
I know.
I also did not see this coming because if you look at Kentucky, or pardon me, at Arkansas's home road splits, they are insanely good at home, and they're just like kind of okay on the road. And so I was just like, Kentucky just got hammered at Vanderbilt. They're going to come in, do the same thing. They got nothing to offer this game really, because whatever athleticism and strength that this team kind of has to get by on now, that doesn't really play with Arkansas and Fayetteville, and it did. And I honestly, I won't say it's the surprise of the season, because like Kentucky shouldn't be in that category of upset or whatever, but I was pretty surprised by it.
Yeah, it's also weird because like these players in this game should have really no. I mean, I guess some of them do, because Wagner, for example, was at Kentucky, but it felt like a game where it was like a rivalry game. You know what I mean? It was like very chippy. There was a lot of emotion involved. Like Ortega always playing to the crowd, and like there was about like Trevon Brazile just throws Trent Noah down at one point late in the game. Just
there were like 6 technical fouls in the game, by the way.
It was insane.
It was like nuts. And there was one in the second half that was like a 6-point swing towards Kentucky, it was kind of like, okay, this is based on the way this is going and like how difficult baskets are to come by in this second half. Potentially, this is like a major swing in the game.
It did feel like maybe Cal had added a little extra sauce to his team for this game to be like, kind of do it for me, boys, because they played that way. Like there was just so much emotion involved. And then I loved Cal after the game, like trying to spin it in the right direction, which is like Kentucky hired the right guy. He was like, what have I been saying? They hired the right guy. I told you guys that you guys, Kentucky fans are pissed off. They're like, I don't need Calipari lecturing me about us hiring the right guy, even though I'm glad that we won this game. So it was just like, it felt like a sibling rivalry happening in real time. So I thought that was really funny too.
I truly cannot imagine anything that would annoy Kentucky fans more than, and he probably knows that.
They were like, I thought we were done with this.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear this anymore.
Like the guy that we, kind of got annoyed with after a sustained period of success, telling us that the guy that we're not happy with currently is actually the best hire we possibly could have made. I don't know if there's anything you could possibly calibrate more to like deeply annoy Kentucky fans right now. Which is,
also that Malik Ewan air ball, like on the technical free throw.
Not great.
That was one of the worst free throws I've ever seen this season. And then Brad Calipari in the background, his reaction, so
I saw
good.
That too.
Just some great moments from that game that weren't even like really basketball related. Just a lot of drama.
Yeah, and
it's like a soap opera.
I believe the referee was Doug Shows, who called a bunch of the technicals, and he double teed like his next game the next night. I think he was at like Memphis or somewhere. I don't have it to hand, but he teed up both benches like just the next night. Like he's just firing them off. Like no problem.
He's like, I'm over it. Yeah. He's in the Calipari spin zone, dude. He's everywhere he goes. He sees visions of Calipari. He's like, just tee these guys up.
Everybody's
Arkansas, Kentucky, Memphis, everybody. Yeah.
Everybody can get it.
That's awesome.
Well, it was a fascinating weekend of college basketball. And we've got another great week coming up. We will have another show for you same time next week. Thank you again, Tate, for coming on. Thank you to our producer, Corey. Thank you to Trilly and all the folks over at Basket and Review. Give us a subscribe. Go write us a review. 5 stars preferably, but whatever you feel in your heart is appropriate. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.